This is the Rest of Everest video podcast, an almost unabridged expedition experience.
Episode 57, Unsung Heroes.
Well, hello again, everyone. Welcome back to the Rest of Everest video podcast. I'm John Miller. I'm feeling a bit under the weather this week, so I have a slight fever that I'm nursing here, and I apologize in advance if I get a little bit spacey while recording this episode, but really didn't want to miss out on a week since there's really only a handful of 2003 footage episodes left for the Rest of Everest, and really want to get through all of them and close out the expedition because it really is coming to an end. Again, I want to reemphasize that this is not going to be the end of the show. There's a lot of stuff coming, not to mention the trip I took this April, but there's some really cool things that I'm going to be collaborating with some other climbers with in the next few weeks, so please stick around for that. Stay subscribed. Lots of cool stuff coming your way. Lots more Everest stuff. So anyway, before it gets any warmer in my office with the air conditioning off so I can record, let's jump into this episode. Let's get back up to base camp. Here we go. Okay, so as I mentioned at the end of last week's episode, this entire episode deals with kind of what goes on in the cook tent with the few Sherpa guys that we had, these incredible guys who kept the expedition going. You're looking here at Pempa, and he was one of the assistants to Dawa, the cook. And this is him making a cup of hot chocolate for probably Alan or Bertrand in the dining tent that's next door to this tent. This is the cook tent here. And every time I watch this footage, it blows me away. This is like the day before we leave, okay? And just look at the care that he still takes to make this simple cup of hot chocolate. I mean, these guys' attention to detail is it's unbelievable. I mean, this is, again, we've already been here for like 50 days, and everything that these guys did was still with this much dedication and this much, detail. It just blows me away. That's one of the familiar pressure cookers. Everything is cooked in a pressure cooker since you're at high altitude, and it helps the water get up to a higher temperature, as well as it just makes things cook faster. So, getting to the last of our propane. Also, what you're seeing here is basically what a normal morning was for me. Now, I was never allowed to cook. These guys, it was their job to cook and to do all this stuff, and I was never allowed to help out. I tried to clean up as much as I could myself, but I could do very little. They would let me do almost nothing because I was a client to them. But for about the second half of the expedition, I had convinced them that it was okay to allow me to not have to be served in the mess tent with the other climbers. I felt that I was there to work just like they were. I was getting paid to be there to film, and I didn't want them waiting on me hand and foot if I could help it. So there's Dawa in the red coat there. So anyway, in the mornings I would get up and I'd walk around base camp trying to warm myself in the sunlight on the other side of camp, the base camp, and then I'd retire for an hour or two into the cook tent and just hang with these guys. Just listen to them talk. I didn't always talk. Sometimes we had conversations. That right there is a person. That is a completely unconscious Boka Lama. He was out drinking heavily the night before in celebration, and that's him preparing to nurse a heavy hangover. In any case, so I spent my mornings just hanging with these guys and seeing what it's really like for them. And by far, I think I've said this before, it was the most, probably my favorite time of the day, and my favorite part of the expedition was just being with these guys. He's laughing at the terrible state of the frozen vegetables.
So it's difficult. Yeah.
This footage impresses the heck out of me, because here he is. I mean, just shows, you hear that base camp is trashed. It's just filthy. And, there are parts of it where there's toilet paper and stuff. But, I mean, these guys, he is cleaning up. He's picking every little morsel, every little scrap up, and everything was disposed of properly. And we really, these guys just took so much care in the environment, and I was always impressed by it. Now he's thinking, what else do I need to do this morning? Peel some potatoes. So every morning we would have, and actually before I get into that, you can see all the steam and everything. That's not just because everything's hot. You have to remember it's freezing. It's well below the freezing point outside right now. Actually, as the expedition winded down, as the days came to an end, the temperature in the morning got colder and colder. It was getting later and later in the spring, and you think that it would get warmer and warmer, but it actually got colder and colder. There's Dawa again, this time just wearing his green sweater instead of the coat. Because he's been cooking and it did warm up a little bit. And they used everything at hand. That is the top to the butter cookie tin from many, many, many episodes back. You'll remember my talking about the butter cookies and how they were just awesome. But he ended up using that butter cookie tin to cook cakes, and you'll see he's baked a cake. And you'll see how he deals with that, but they used everything at their disposal. I love that man right there with all my heart. He took such good care of me. What a really good friend. I'll never understand exactly how he baked this cake. He baked these cakes frequently. You might hear or read on the back of, cake mixes and whatnot that there are high altitude instructions. Well, those high altitude instructions usually mean like 4,000, 5,000 feet. We're at 17,000 feet, and he baked the most delicious, light, fluffy cake. It was just wonderful. And then he'd make, he didn't on this one, but he'd make chocolate frosting out of like hot chocolate cocoa powder. It was just wonderful. He spent a lot of time in France cooking, I think in the south of France. And so he's actually a very highly trained chef. But he's also extremely resourceful.
त्यो त नि हिजोमा देखाङ त उचाङ उचालेन उतापट्टिको त्यो सानो उतापट्टि खाने ठाउँ छ नि हामी बस्ने हैन अर्को त्यो प्लास्टिकको घरभित्र तिनीहरु लामाहरु हैन
Wish I had Lawang here doing commentary with me so I could find out what these guys are saying to each other. You notice it's just been me the past several episodes. It's just I can't get hold of anyone to do the commentary. I know they'd like to, but everyone's busy, and it's very difficult when you're in several different time zones to organize the weekly tapings. Hope you guys don't mind, it's just been me. You can see Dawa looking over. Oh, yeah, he's yelling at Boca. Wake up, you fool. He's talking about Boca, but I'm not sure what he's saying. I'm standing outside the tent there looking in. Okay, there's a little bit of a story behind that apple. You might remember Dr. Dima had to escort one of his climbers, Marina, back to the border with Nepal in Jangmu, because she had gotten pneumonia and had gotten very sick. And so he followed her all the way to the border, and when he came back a day or so later, he brought these crates of these big, large apples, and he gave me 2 of them. And so I was all excited because fresh fruit is rare at this point in the expedition. So I ate one, and I gave the other one to Dawa, you know, because I wanted him to have an apple. I can see Boca is stirring there. So I wanted Dawa to have an apple, you know, just a gift to him. And he said, oh, you know, thank you, thank you.
Oh, yeah, but thank you. I love apples.
Yeah, so he said, thanks for the apple. And the next morning, he cut it up and served it to me. They just could not accept gifts while they're working. It's not part of their culture. They don't get it. There's Boca. Boca looks like he had a rough night. So anyway, Dawa being Dawa, he made a mental note. John likes apples. So he found, when he went to little Barter Town, the little Tibetan village at the base of base camp, he saw 1 apple, and so he bought it for me. Nicest guy. He'd always look at, you know, like when they clear the dishes, he'd look at what was eaten and what wasn't, and he'd constantly be tuning the, you know, what he'd make to the stuff that you really ended up eating all of. And so by the end of the expedition, he had it down. He knew what everyone wanted to eat, and he kept making these cakes because Andre, the Belgian climber, who was not well at this point, I think that we think that he had had a stroke up at on the North Col several weeks earlier. And he was deteriorating, but he was not willing to leave. And all he would eat at this point is beer and cake. Just beer and cake, nothing else. I don't remember him eating anything else. And I really don't think he ate anything else other than beer and cake, because he was not in a good place. So Dawa made sure he always had beer and cake.
मेरो पिसा at ano saya gun wati nama la so ganya ta kat tapi hacha tu ding plus so kung ano dan lay
You know, a lot of the climbers will say, even Ben says that he got pretty tired of the food. And, you know, maybe I did, but I really don't remember it. I tend towards vegetarianism anyway, and so it was very easy for me. And I tend to eat the same thing. My wife and I both eat the same thing day after day after day for months at a time till we get sick of it. Then we switch to something else and obsess over having that, whatever it is, day after day after day. So this was very easy for me to eat this stuff every day, and I just loved it. Plus, how can you go wrong with basically home fried potatoes? You just can't.
No more. No. So much food.
okay
You can hear in the background there that I'm refusing food because they had already fed me. They fed me before they fed any of the other guys. Again, because I think that they like me better than anyone else, any of the French guys. No offense to the French guys. But, so yeah, and he was offering me some more food, which I just could not eat. I was stuffed at that point, so... Anyway, I thought that would be really cool to show you what these guys do. They are truly the unsung heroes of Everest expeditions. They're not climbing Sherpas. These are the guys. Dawa was, without a doubt, the base camp manager. And, you know, he made everything happen. Made it a very smooth expedition, you know, with logistics and getting the food in and preparing it and making sure everyone was well fed. And you can't climb Everest without calories, so... Anyway, next week we are gonna hang out with our lama, our high lama from the monastery, and gonna let him use Ben's cell phone. Ben was very happy to let him and his friends make some calls back to Kathmandu and some other destinations. Who knows, they might have been around the world. And so we'll catch up with that next week. Thanks so much for bearing with me with my fever, and I will talk with you guys later. Bye. The Rest of Everest is downloaded all over the world every week. If you enjoy watching and would like to show your support, then take a look at my website. Aside from having lots of additional blog entries from the expedition updated every week, there's this little donation button on every page. Now, many of you have pressed that button, and your generous contributions are helping to cover my hosting fees. If you haven't donated but would like to, then just contribute any amount. In return, I'll give you access to the video and audio dispatches I sent out while we were actually at Everest. It's pretty interesting stuff. Contribute $25 or more, and I'll even throw in an iPod-compatible version of the film Everest: The Other Side. That's the project the entire podcast here is based on. As always, our announcer is Marlon May, and our music is provided by Wendy Wu. Check her out at wendywu.com. Thanks so much, everyone, and we'll see you next week.
Thank you for watching The Rest of Everest. For more information on the expedition, please visit therestofeverest.com.
Surprise.